deathless titans placed upon the face of the earth 3 generations of men. The first of them being men of gold. Becoming too close to gods themselves, Cronus ended their time on earth with an eternal sleep. A second generation came to be, the men of silver. Unwilling to serve the Titans and make sacrifices upon the holy altars, as all men shall do, they were condemned to dwell under the earth for all eternity. Finally, a third generation, the men of bronze, a brazen race, sprung from the ash tree. Terrible and strong are they. Join me as I tell you the tales of the men of bronze. This is Dragon's Blood. Beware Brontes. Episode 25. Senusret stood before them, seemingly oblivious to their inquiring stares. Munching on the last of the bread he brought from the cookhouse was his only concern. Unable to endure the suspense of not knowing what the symbol on the shield meant, everyone at the same time said, "What does the symbol mean, Senusret?" Startled by their chorus of inquisition, he said, "Sorry, this bread is so good, I had to eat it all." Senusret, without thinking, almost popped the crust in his mouth, but looked at Gamden and saw his frown of disapproval. Instead, he threw the crust to the dog that had followed his trail of crumbs from the cookhouse. Wiping crumbs from his chin and toga, Senusret began, "I remember that my father wore a necklace with that same symbol." Scratching his head in thought, he continued, "I think that the 2 lines in the center of the circle stand for 2 rivers. The circle is for the borders of my homeland. I think that's what my father said." He finished with a shrug. "You said that you and your father left because of the warlords and disease?" questioned Akim. "Is there anything else you can remember that might help us understand why the symbol was shown to Mutau?" Senusret scratched his head as he thought for a moment, then said, "No, I was young when we left. I really only remember the dead bodies in the cities we went through to get to the 3 kingdoms." Closing his eyes, he visibly shivered as the images came back to haunt him. It was as if the people died where they stood. The immense red boils that covered their bodies. When they died, the boils would burst, releasing black, foul-smelling pus. And when we got to the docks... Senusret trailed off in thought. Bringing his eyes back into focus, he shook his head and said, "Talking about those old memories brought up something my father said at the docks." Looking up into the rafters, he found the memory. He said, "The white and the blue rivers flow in our veins." As he said that, he held the symbol on the necklace close to his heart. Senusret stood silently for a moment, mimicking his father, holding his clenched fist to his heart. Everyone joined in his silence for a moment. Then Memenkari said, "That's enough of sad old memories for today. Gamden, tell us about the armor," Memenkari asked as he pointed to the mannequin. "Ah, yes. Gamden, please tell us," added Mutau. "My second sight only showed me how to make the armor, but nothing else. Now, I have a feeling that we might be here for a while. Mutalu, fetch chairs for us, then go to our home and have the servants bring us water and wine." With a disappointed look on his face, Mutalu pleaded, "But Papa, I want to hear about the armor too. I will get the chairs, Mutalu, interjected Sanisret. If you're fast, we will wait for you. Mutalu looked to his father, who gave him a nod of approval. Oh boy, I'll be back quick. Promise, said Mutalu over his shoulder as he ran out of the room. While Sanisret placed chairs in a semicircle facing the mannequin, everyone found a chair and got comfortable. Less than a minute later, Mutalu ran back into the room with the dust cloud at his heels. I was fast, Papa, he panted, then continued. No time at all. Just as I promised. Minkari patted the chair beside him and said, Sit beside me. Now let's listen to Gamden. Gamden stood before them, arms crossed, looking at the giant model clad in armor. He reached out to touch the metal, hesitating. Then he touched the pauldron. Gamden said without turning to face his audience, I don't know where to start. So much has changed in just over a fortnight. Gamden ran his fingers down the gauntlet, not meant for a hand, then continued, I have an unwavering belief that everything that has happened to me and that we are all here together for a reason. Everyone murmured their agreement. Mutal sat quiet and attentive, not willing to miss the opportunity to finally be privy to one of his father's secrets. Gamden sighed and explained his theory. I guess that the obvious place to start is when Sacred Mother looked into my mind, unlocking the dream that I described for Akam and Minkari. The foresight of the road markers on that stormy night, finding of the note, signet ring, and the morning star. Gamden gathered his thoughts and continued. When we arrived at the compound, I was flooded with what seemed like a year's worth of memories in just a few minutes. There was a blinding light at first, then images, sounds, even scents, and I could taste things too. Pointing to Sundisret, he went on, If you hadn't caught me when I fell off my horse, I'm sure I would have broken my neck. From the open door behind them, 4 of Mutal's servants quietly entered the room with trays of refreshments and food for their lunch. As Gamden talked, the servants filled goblets with wine and water. Plates were heaped with dried meats and fruits. Without disturbing the conversation, everyone was served. Now that it has been a day, said Gamden between gulps of wine, I can make more sense of these new memories of mine. He regarded his goblet for a few seconds, then put it down on the table next to him. Crossing his arms across his chest, he looked at them as a group and said, I thought I could figure out what was happening to me by myself. Now, I believe that I'm going to need all the help I can get. He finished with a soft laugh. There is a part of my mind that seems to be in a fog. I can't see into it. Gamden waved his hands before his eyes to emphasize his point. But the fog is burning away, and images or memories or whatever you want to call them emerge. Ah, yes, blurted out Mutal. That is what happened to me when my second sight began. Nothing made sense at first, but then after a while, it was as if it had always been there. Mutal gave his nose a quick scratch as he thought. It was a few days before I was able to make sense of my new sight. It has been with me for so long now that I don't even think about it, and I'm sure that it will be the same for you. I hope so, answered Gamden. Now, this is what I know about the armor. It was obviously made for a woman. She has dark skin just like you, Senisret, and just as tall. I can't make out her features. I am in a dark place, but not really dark either. There is an eerie green glow all around me. Gamden closed his eyes in search of the image. Then he continued, I'm in a cave. Kepri is with me too. It's very damp and warm. Gamden wrinkled his nose. Smells of... I don't know what it smells like. I can't describe it. The woman is on a table, carved out of the rock. I don't know this woman, or why I'm risking my life to... Gamden trailed off as new images came out of the fog. There are people in the cave with me. Short. Not even as tall as me. He held up his hand to his chest to emphasize his point. They are pale. Disfigured. They never blink their eyes. Their eyes shine like silver. No, wait. It's liquid silver. Mutal gasped audibly. Akim closed his eyes and traced the symbol of Athena before him, while Menkari ejaculated, Oh no! Oh no! Both Gamden and Senisret looked at each other in confusion, then looked at Menkari for an explanation. We all believe that you are describing the men of silver. He paled visibly as he continued. They have become cannibals. We only know rumors about the lair of the men of silver. Gamden stated. How dangerous can it be? They appear so small and frail. The men of silver can't be killed by mere mortals. Menkari paused as he composed himself. The men of silver abandoned the worship of the Titans and chose other false deities. As punishment, many were killed off, except for a few who were kept alive to suffer under the earth for all eternity. Shuddering with the horror of it all, he continued, For the final indignation, they were abasinated by the pouring of liquid silver. Ah, yes. Do you know when you have to be there? Interrogated Mutal. Is there time to prepare you for this rescue? Gamden closed his eyes and searched his memories, then said, I see us all together the night before we leave, and we're celebrating Mutalo's birthday. Mutalo exclaimed, My birthday is in 3 days! Mutal added, Ah, yes. I would have liked at least a week to gather everything we need, but we can do it in 3. Now, why don't you erase that first blackboard on your left? No, wait. Mutal gave his nose a quick scratch, then continued, I still need that. Clean the second one. I'm finished with that stuff. Senisret leaned over to Akim and whispered, I still find that eerie, the way he can do that. Look for episode 26 of Dragon's Blood. Beware Brontes on YouTube.